Hey everyone, welcome to another installment of Gary's Place. Welcome to Gary's Place. This is Gary's Place. Sorry for the noise here. I'm just finishing up a print, and then I'd like to do a video on a few things I've got here. I'm going to be installing a E3D V6. It's a clone. I bought a cheapie. Wanted an all metal hot end because I do a lot of printing in PETG, and I want to get a larger nozzle. I want to run something like a point .8 millimeter nozzle, so I can start to get some large prints, but do them relatively quickly. Um, and obviously can't run that kind of heat through the stock hot end on this Sunlu S8 due to the little PTFE tube that's in the bottom right by the nozzle there. So also I created a spool holder for this. It fits right into the bottom extrusion, so I'm going to be installing that today. Unfortunately, you do have to partially take apart the printer in order to install this piece. But once it's in, it's a one-time shot. I reinforced the edges here and all that. I threw it on Thingiverse so you guys can take a look if you're interested. Couple other little odds and ends I'm going to install. I found a tool holder that goes on the top on Thingiverse. I think I'm going to remix it though, or redesign it, because it doesn't hold the spatula. And to me, that's kind of one of the important pieces that I wanted to see on it. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to design my own so that it holds everything I want. That, and honestly, I don't really like the whole branding thing. I mean, I didn't brand this, and if I did, I probably would have put Sunlu on it. Honestly, I don't really want to have my name or somebody else's name on my printer. I just want to have some generic stuff on there that works. So what we'll do is we'll talk about a few things here. I want to start off with some setup stuff. I did print a couple of camera mounts for my phone, so we can get some different angles and different views. Do apologize for some of the views that you guys have seen, but unfortunately, as with everything, I try to do everything on the cheap, because let's face it, nowadays, it's really hard to come up with the extra money to get these things done, but there are reasonable ways to get into 3D printing and all that, on a budget. It's not something you really have to break the bank to do. You just have to be smart about it. So I'll go ahead and pause the video here and move on to a different camera view, and we'll go over a few things. All right, thanks, guys.
Alright guys, so just wanted to use this view for a minute to kind of show what I'm working with here. I'm shooting this on a mount that I found on Thingiverse. So it's called a Modular Mounting System by Heyvye. Heyvye. It's a pretty good design, so just wanted to give a shout out for that. I've got a couple of odd prints on here we won't go over, but so the showcase for today is my spool holder. Okay, we're going to install this today. That out of the way. And then I have a E3D clone here, as described before. Now this is a mount that I found on Thingiverse. I'll leave a link below. It's one of the Hero Me's that somebody redid for the Sunlu. Now I'm not a big fan of this, I'll be honest right now, but I'm going to give it a shot to start out with. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to find a very good design to do this on the Sunlu, so I may have to, down the line, redesign something or just design something myself for it. I just honestly haven't had the time. So with this mounting system, it has a groove here for your wiring. okay, but honestly it should be on the other side, being that Sunlu, everything's on this side. This was one of the only ones that I could find that actually used the stock fan, and I think this is one of the biggest downsides to this, is that, you know, now I'm losing part cooling on both sides, but yet I'm installing this so that I can run a lot more heat to kind of do some quicker prints. You know, the Sunlu is a large platform printer, so obviously when you buy these types of things, you know, you want to use them for what they were made for. I'm looking to print faster with a lot more filament, which obviously means a lot more heat so that you can push that filament through, which is also why I wanted an all metal hot end. Now the vent on this, I don't know if you guys can see that, I'll get you a little closer view, is at a perfect right angle, which is for me a problem, because this is going to be pretty much shooting air directly onto my my nozzle here, which is not where I want it. I want the blower to be blowing onto the part, so this should have been scooped downward. But again, I'm just gonna give this one a shot, and then I'll probably end up redesigning something later. Obviously I'm losing my cooling on both sides. I'm only gonna have cooling on one side now, which is going to be a problem. So, you know, I could see that they put some time into this, but in all honesty, things could be done better. I'm also not a big fan of the fact that the hot end is going to be mounted directly to this. I would like the hot end to be mounted to the bracket and then have this mounted to the bracket and to the hot end, but, you know, you take what you can get at this point. Like I said, I will probably just end up designing one myself later. But the main issue, or the main thing for me, was that being that I want to do this on the cheap, I want to use the hardware I already have, and most of the setups that they have on Thingiverse, they all, you know, upgrade the blower, they add 2 blowers so you have a second. Obviously there's a track here so that you could add something on this side, probably BL Touch or whatever, but you know, I'm not really to that point yet. And the other downside to this is that you have to supply your own hardware. Luckily, I had a little kit with a bunch of M3, you know, screws and nuts and whatnot, so that helped out for me. The cool part about that though is that these screws are actually nutted on the back side, so everything's nice and tight. So we'll see how this goes. Again, I will probably be designing something myself, and I'll release that later. I will also give a link to my spool holder, which is also listed on Thingiverse. So there's that. Little backtrack to my one of my last videos, where I bought 2 of these all metal hot ends. One turned out to not be all metal. It was only all metal because they didn't supply any of the plastic, but it was not all metal. This one came with this little fan. Now in the listing, I was instantly not going to use this because the listing said that it was a 12-volt fan. Just wanted to give a little update that once I took it off, I realized, I don't know if you can see the sticker in there, but this is a 24-volt fan. Didn't really quite make sense to me when I purchased it why I would be purchasing a 24-volt hot end, because this did come with a thermistor and the heater cartridge. I will not be using it because mine is perfectly fine, so I'm just going to continue with that one. But it didn't make sense to me why the listing would say that even though you're buying a 24-volt hot end, we're going to give you a 12-volt fan. Didn't really make sense, but it is a 24-volt fan. So just wanted to, you know, clarify that. Also, too, the one cool thing that I did like about this bracket was that it came with a spot to put the LED. The LED will sit in this little channel under here. Now, I don't think they designed it very well, being that, I don't know if you can see this little notch here. It almost looks like you could possibly stick the wiring through, but there's no way the LED is going to sit in that. So we'll see how this goes. I'm expecting that the wiring is going to sit there, and they just expected the LED to kind of flop around. Again, another redesign factor, but it was nice though that it did come with something to put the LED in. Okay, and then we've got this little tool holder, HSR. Again, I don't like putting somebody else's name or branding on my stuff, but this was the only one that I could find that would fit for my purposes. I guess I still got a couple little supports to pop out of there. Let's get that out of the way. Tried to do all the cleanup of this stuff because I know who the hell wants to sit here and watch a video of somebody cleaning up a print, but there's that. Okay, so by the end of this video we will have all this stuff installed, and then I'll do some test prints. I'll do a future video to kind of, you know, say how everything went and how I liked everything and how it worked. Get some of this stuff out of the way. And all right, let me switch camera views. I've got another one of these mounts I printed out that I have on my printer so that you guys can see you know, what's going on there. So let me move my stuff over.
So guys, we're going to start out with, we're going to start this video out in this view, being that I got to take the printer apart, so obviously using my mount that's at the top of the printer is not really going to work in this case because there's going to be a lot of ups and downs. So we're just going to do this normal vantage point here. Okay, so to start out with, going to need to do safety first. Obviously that means turning the printer off and making sure that it is unplugged. I do have filament in this printer right now. As you can see, I have a, well, maybe you can't see, move this over. I have my stock filament spool holder here, feeding in here, and I obviously want to get this mounted in place right here so it holds the filament right across from the extruder. And I have filament in here, so I'm going to go ahead and get that out of here. Now, I'm not going to bore you with this whole thing, but I did want to make a point here. So right now I've got some PETG in here, so I got to heat it up to 240. Now, every time I do a filament change, and I'm not going to show you the whole thing, but every time I do a filament change, I always do a cold pull. It's always very important to do a cold pull. Pretty much any time you're moving the filament, changing the filament, putting a new spool on, changing anything, I feel that the cold pull is probably one of the best utilized ways of keeping your nozzle clear. So that's going to require you to bring it up to temp. Okay. Then you cool it down, and when it gets to its glass transition stage, which in general is about 90 degrees Celsius, you know, you push on the arm here and you pull the filament back through, and what that's going to do is it's going to allow the filament in the end of the nozzle to sort of solidify. Like the glass temperature would be where the outside solidifies, but the inside's still a little mushy. Okay, and then basically what that's going to do is it's going to pull everything out of your nozzle, and it's going to grab almost everything and pull it right out. So once it gets up to temp, I usually take a paper towel with a little alcohol on it, clean the tip of the nozzle on the outside. Then I cool it down and go ahead and do the cold pull. So let me get that done here, and then I'll be right back with you. Okay, so I got my filament removed, got my cold pull done. I took care of the safety, switches off, got my cord unplugged here. Okay, so to install my filament, I'm sorry, spool holder, you got to take the front cover off to start with. They're little screws, guys, so let's make sure that we are putting them in a proper place where they're not going to get lost. On the printer is probably a bad idea, like I just did, just because the you may have to maneuver the printer around just a little bit here and there. Okay, got all my tools set up here on the side. Now, my last printer, I'm pretty sure, had 5 screws in the front. This one only has 3. Okay, so we removed those 3 screws. Okay, and then you can Okay, so just a little lever action there. The front comes back. You just push it back. There's a little grip so you can see on the front. And then we can set this aside. Now, I usually don't do this, but I'm just going to go ahead and, well, you know what, let's just set this aside. Yeah. Last thing you want to do is go and breaking anything. You will regret it. So we can disconnect the cable there for the screen, and then we can set this piece aside. Make sure it's in a safe place, guys. Don't want to go losing anything. Now, in the front here, there's 2 screws on the larger extrusions on either side, and then there's 1 screw on the center extrusions. Okay, little short guys. Now, also remember you have the belt tension here, so I would definitely suggest loosening this up, removing the belt, just getting it out of the way. Okay, and then we want to take the 2 screws out on this side, take these 2 screws out on the center extrusions, and then I usually just loosen up the 2 screws on this side. You will have to loosen them quite a bit because you need to pull this out far enough to fit that piece in. So let me go ahead and get this belt out of the way, get these screws all loosened up, and then I'll come back and show you where we're at. Okay, got just about everything out here, and did want to make a note here too. The power supply is right here. You know, if you don't feel comfortable going in here, maybe this isn't the right accessory to install for you. I do generally expect that most people with 3D printers are probably going to be fine with this, but you know, obviously do this at your own risk. You know, there are capacitors and whatnot in here that might still have a little bit of a charge in them, but you know, again, do this at your own risk. But I would expect that most people in the 3D printing world are going to be okay with being in here. So the you see this little lip here, okay, is right in front of that screw. So you can get it out. You can use the stock keys that they give you with this thing. It's going to take a little time. So if I were you, I would start with the outermost screws on either side. Obviously, this one just has to be decently loose. This one has to come all the way out. But you are going to want to probably start with those. What I do is I just crack each one, get them loose, just started loose, and then I work on the outer ones and then work my way in. Another little note with the tensioner here, if you have your tensioner already set up, I'm sure that you probably know how to do that, being that these are always messed up when they first come in. I would suggest holding the screw with the Allen key, okay, and then using the wrench to loosen the nuts, get the nuts nice and loose. But you're not really changing the adjustment until you unscrew these unscrew the screws. So my suggestion would be to count how many turns you do, get this just loose enough to slip the belt off, and then count your turns back. So as long as you don't slide the adjustment, okay, if you leave it right where it's at, or maybe even mark it, okay, and then count your turns, it should make it a lot easier to put this back together properly so that you don't have to spend an hour adjusting this back and forth. Okay, so I'll just do that now. Now I'm doing quarter turns, okay, and I just did 2 quarter turns on the first one. 2 quarter turns on the second one, and now I'm just loose enough to slide this off. Okay, not a big deal. You know, I mean, you can just readjust it later, but
you know, I like to try to make things as simple as possible. I don't know about you. But that's off now. Okay, so I got the two inner screws out. Okay, those are done. I already removed the outer screw here because I didn't want to waste all the time on video doing it. I already loosened up the two on the end. Obviously, the one closest to me right now needs to be a lot looser than the one all the way on the end. So I already have done that. And then now I'm screwing the last one out. Okay, that's out. All right, now I like to move things as little as possible. Okay, so I just need to squeak this out far enough to sneak this in. Okay, so we'll split this. Okay, just gotta maneuver that high enough to sneak this in. There we go. Now, if you just freshly printed this, which you probably did, this might be a little bit of a tight fit at first, but I promise you, it does fit. Just needs a little push to get it all the way in there. And if you had a brim on this, maybe a little tap, just to get it past that extra lip. Okay, so unfortunately that took a little bit of a tap. I guess I left a little bit of the brim on the edge of it. The last time I did this, that brim just broke off, but in this case I printed it in PETG, so it was a little bit stiffer. So it's got a nice tight fit. You know, move this back into place. Honestly, if this were meant to move, I probably would have added a little grease just to, smooth things out. But now that that's in, that's exactly where I want it to set. Um, I already moved the Z-axis all the way down. It comes literally like 2 millimeters away from it. So very nice tight fit. It's not going anywhere. Strong unit. So we'll see how that works. So now back together, right? So anyways, I think I'll start with these screws back in. Okay. And I did notice that they have changed this design since the last one I had. I see these center extrusions actually have a little cutout. So there's a little cutout in this extrusion for this extrusion to sit in. My last unit, they just butted up against them just like these do on the ends. I don't know if that's better. I'm going to take a guess that probably takes a little bit of the whap um, out of the y-axis there. So there's one good thing. So anyways, I won't bore you guys with watching me put these screws back in. It'll just take me a quick minute, and I'll be right back again. All right, guys. So didn't want to bore you with that, but did want to do a couple of quick notes. So I don't really know that a torque pattern would really matter with this thing, but I'm an old car guy, so to me, torque pattern has always been important. But I would imagine it would be best to get everything nice and snug all the way across. Then I would tighten the center extrusions first, get them nice and snug, and then work your way to the outside, doing the inner on this side and the inner on this side.
And then the outer. And again, like I said, it's fair to note that when I took this apart, the front cover bolts were all loose, and most of these extrusion bolts were also loose. So always a good idea to make sure everything is tightened up on these. Not really quite saying that during an install you'd want to go this far, but seems seems like not a bad idea. So I'm going to go ahead and put this. Oh, see, there we go. I moved it. See, probably a good idea to mark it. Now I'm going to spend the next 10 minutes adjusting this out properly. So I won't bore you guys with that either. But just so you know, this Y-axis belt, you want to have a good amount of tension on it. So this is way too loose. Okay. Good amount of tension, and you want to make sure that it's straight to the pulley that's across from it, which is on the motor. Okay, and then I usually do a full front to back. And you hear that little rattling noise? That's the teeth grinding on the edge of the pulley. So that lets me know that we do not have this centered. So if I wiggle this over a touch, okay, go back and forth. Okay, and then you want to do that back and forth, but right now I'm going to get this snug down so that it's just about where I want it. I'm probably just going to do my 2/4 turns, and then I will make sure everything's aligned and so on and so forth. So I'll see you in a few more minutes. So anyways, guys, that is a very tedious process getting that pulley all set up properly. It's kind of a loosen, tighten, loosen, tight, move over, you know, and then you have to adjust the two bolts together. I mean, it's a terrible design. And I think I may eventually one day decide to finally design something to replace that, because this is a little ridiculous. But just got to get the cover back on here, just the 3 bolts. So just make sure you get the LCD plugged back in. Okay. And then you want to lever this back down. And one more note, you're going to probably have to pop, you know, kind of bend this a little bit out of the way to allow for the USB and the card slot. And then before you put the screws in, make sure that you grab your card and make sure it'll go in and out. That was one thing the first time I did this, I had to take it back off and, you know, do a little back and forth on that. Alright guys, so I wanted to try a little bit different view here. This is my new little camera mount I printed for my printer. I think we got everything in shot here, so let's get going. I always pull the bit out when I'm working here on the hot end, just because it's a nice surface to get everything done, and then we can just clean it up later. So I want to get rid of the zip tie here. So I don't need that. And then let's get this fan shroud off of here. Hope this is a little better angle for you guys. I was kind of excited to finally get something printed out that was nicely useful. So there's, this will be a little bugger. We'll pull it off when we get the shroud off. So there's another screw tucked in behind here. And one of the other reasons I thought this was such a good design, this red squirrel deal, was because they even thought ahead to put a notch there. I mean, how creative and how thoughtful, you know. It's like, dude, you thought of everything. Well done.
you know. Let's get this all loosened up here. I probably don't have to take this little bracket off all the way, but it's got one screw with a Phillips head and one screw with an Allen key on it. So let's see, can we wiggle that off? Oh, maybe a little farther with that Allen screw. Okay, and then later on I'll probably stop this just so I can get, just so I can make sure I know what screws we're going to use where on this new fan shroud kit. Wow, this thing's a little bugger. There we go. Okay, so there we go. That's off. Now, we are going to be replacing the hot end here. However, I'm going to be using the same thermistor and the same cartridge, just because I don't want to have to, rewire it if I don't have to. All right. Well, there's a good note for you guys. Make sure you keep track of all of your screws. You will need them later. Alright, let me run and grab that one. There she is. Okay, and I'm going to be using the same fans now. As I mentioned before, I wasn't really much for this new fan shroud, but I do like doing this stuff on the cheap, and I would prefer to not have to buy another fan. I know they're only, I don't know, $10 or something like that, but why spend the money if you don't have to? Now, if my print quality does end up suffering because of this, I probably will go ahead and spend the $10 and buy a new fan, print out a new blower vent for it. Just because, you know, spending money wisely means spending it when you need to, and obviously if my parts are suffering because I don't have the right cooling, then it is definitely going to be worth spending a couple of bucks on a fan. So, geez, these screws are just being a little pain today. There we go. Alright, so we'll take those back. These are all the original screws from the original fan shroud of this Sunlu printer. Come on, get out of there. Okay. There we go. That is gone. I may end up needing those screws later, but let's find out. Okay, so let's see, how do I want to do this? I'll get rid of this sock. For starters, I think I'm gonna wanna loosen these nuts here first. Alright, let's see here. So the thermistor's in with a Phillips. Oh, and look at that, it's not even tight. Oh, you know, the wire's not even tucked underneath it either. Well, see, just goes to show you guys. Sometimes it's worth taking it apart just to know exactly what you've got. Now, the new... Oh, look at that, that's even loose too. Oh, Jesus. Everything's loose. I wonder if I was having a heating issue and didn't even know it. Okay. So, the new one's got a screw that holds that in. So, oh, please don't tell me that's stripped. Not already. Oh, okay. Get a little fresher a little fresher Allen key on that. And I hope I can get this out of here. These fittings are not very good on this printer. And they do have a tendency to not work or not release. And then you end up breaking them and you gotta replace them. I may just end up snipping this. Come on, don't be like that. Okay, I'm just gonna end up snipping that. Yeah, it goes for another thing too. Geez, I may have to replace this hose too. Oh, hold on, let's try one more thing. Right tool for the right job, right? Let's see, can we push down on this? Come on. Sunlu, sometimes you really suck. Let me just take this fitting out for right now, and then we'll deal with it later. Maybe if I push it down through, I'll be able to pull it back out later. Okay. So there's that. That is the wrong Allen key. Okay. I'm also a little weird about this one because this new fan shroud, because I'm using the E3D clone, it is not going to screw down to the base here. It's just going to be held on the frame on the outer end. I got to be quite honest, that bothers me a little as well. But like I said, we are just going to give this a try this time. If we don't like it, we can get rid of it, right? That's the one good thing about trying something out. Okay, so we can get rid of these. Okay. Oh, you know what? They tucked their hole right behind that. I'm going to have to take this screw out all the way. And let's see, does that come out? Don't break it, don't break it, don't break it. These things are delicate, guys. You got to be a little gentle. There we go. Okay, and you know what? This marking is identical to the E3D clone that I bought, so I'm going to take a guess that I'm good with not replacing that cartridge anyways, because it has the exact same marking on it as the okay, so now we got everything off here. Just left with a pile of parts, right? So let's see how this is gonna fish through here. So when I set this up, I set it up so that the block was coming off the back. I figured that was best to keep the block not directly covered by the vent here. I wanted the block to be further towards the back. Okay, but that left me with my screw and my thermistor going on this side, which is fine. But unfortunately, the wiring loom needs to go through here. So, and I'm gonna take a guess that means that I'm gonna have to stretch the LED over here to get it up front, or maybe tuck it in underneath. I don't know. We're gonna see how this goes. But the other thing I did when I set this up was after I clamped this down, so I tightened this nice and good. It is not going anywhere. It's nice and solid. I used a little card or something underneath here to make sure that this, the bottom of this duct here was just a touch higher than the tip of this, so it'll glide over the part as it extrudes. But then that also left me with the epiphany that oh hey, look, that vent is pointed directly at that nozzle, so it really should be undercut so that, you know, kind of angled out this way, so it's kind of shooting air down below it and not directly at it. But I guess no design's perfect, right? So this already has the clip mount in place. So I just kind of wanted to dry fit this here. See how that turns out. Oh, would you look at that, guys? I mean, it goes on. And unfortunately, I don't know if you can see that. The tab goes in, but these two holes should be to sit over top of that to clamp this in place. Kind of like so. But it doesn't fit. The only way it fits, and if you line up these two holes right here, it fits in just like that. Which means that this whole assembly is going to be held by just these two screws. Well, you know, I hate to say it, but I'm going to have to go back to the drawing board. Because that just will not do. I mean, look at that. What? I mean, it sits in there. But I mean, this is just... I don't care how tight you make these screws. That cannot just flap around like that. Okay, guys. I guess this is why you dry fit to begin with. So, that being said, I guess this is the end of this video because I will absolutely not be using this. And to whoever made this thing, I wanted to give you the benefit of the doubt, but what were you thinking? So, alright guys, well, thanks for stopping at Gary's place, I guess, because this is not happening. I'm just going to put this back together and set this printer back up so I can use it again. And then I'll get back to you when I get a new fan mount. Maybe I'm just going to end up having to buy the fan, but hey, you know, every once in a while you're going to have a failure, and this is the one. So, alright guys, thanks for stopping at Gary's place. I'd hate for you to subscribe on this video, maybe the first portion of it, but this was a total failure. So I guess if you like the content, please subscribe below, and thanks for stopping at Gary's place. I am Gary, and you're always welcome. Alright guys, take care.